Hello and welcome to Ethereal Gaming. We're here for another video with World of Tanks, and today we're going to be looking at some gameplay with the Leo. The Leo is a Swedish medium tank, but one that you have to play quite a bit because not only does it unlock the next tier, the tier 8 Swedish medium, it also unlocks the tier 8 Swedish heavy, so you do spend quite a lot of time in this tank. Now the gameplay we're going to look at is actually looking at flanking and when flanking can actually go right, which can be done in any tank. It just so happens that I'm currently grinding the Swedish tree, and this video and this gameplay presented itself as, I think, a good example of when flanking goes right and what can be achieved. So looking at the Leo itself, it's got pretty good maneuverability. Now that definitely helps in flanking. One of the issues is it does have quite a long reload time, but decent alpha damage for a tier 7 at 300. And average penetration of 155 with its normal rounds. Now, some of the stats we see here in terms of the gun loading at 10 seconds is not reflective of the gameplay you're going to see, because I had a rammer, I had vents, and I had vertical stabilizers. But the aiming time is a little slow, quite big gun dispersion as well. So some things that can hinder a flanking maneuver, so something that is worth considering. But overall, quite good view range, which is handy. But the mobility is one of the things that makes a flanking maneuver work the best, coupled with some decent gun depression as well, because that can often get you into places where you can flank but not expose yourself too much. So let's jump into some gameplay and see what happened. Okay, so here we are in our Leo. We're on El Haluf, and we are top tier tank, because 4 tier 7s, some tier 6s and some tier 5s. So in terms of a matchup, it doesn't really get any better of that. And we are on essentially the northern or the northeastern spawn, and we're going to move straight out to the western flank, because there is an area there which is normally hotly contested with a combination of mediums and heavies. And while the Leo has terrible armor values, it does have good gun depression, and with that alpha damage, you can often use the ridgelines to poke out, get a good shot for 300 alpha damage, and then come back down. Now look at that mobility and speed, and that's really what's helping us get into position. So pretty good for a medium tank, but you are paying for that with almost no real armor to speak of, particularly on the turret, which does make any sort of peeking over a ridgeline quite tricky. Now I've got into position early because often enemy tanks are going to shoot past this little a gap between the two hills to try and get a side shot on our heavy tanks. So the enemy would be looking to move into that A1 area and then shoot our heavy tanks from the side. So we've moved into position early, and it looks like I'm also getting some support. And here comes the first target, and there you go, STRV 74. We hit him for 278 damage, but he also takes a hit from the STRV-M as well, and also the artillery, and we're getting some spotting damage for that. So that was some of the advantage of getting somewhere early into a key location. We've put some hurt on the STRV-74, and he could in reality be considered to almost be out of the battle. If he's not now, he will be soon. Now the enemy hasn't really pushed up and been aggressive here, so we're going to move into the next area, and I'm just going to poke out, because often there are light tanks or scouts that like to play around on this hill. I can't see any at the moment, so we've had a look. We can't see anything. We're now going to get back into the fight. Now what I've noticed here is as we come up, normally we kind of push out and we'd look to peek out and deal with that sort of KV2, KV1 and poke around the corner like the STRV, but interestingly, there's no tanks on this side of the hill, and this is where I've decided to, instead of poking out and playing sort of a catchy mouse with the heavy tanks, is to come round behind them. There's a Hellcat, and often that's what happens when you flank, is you come around the corner, you haven't seen anyone spotted, and you suddenly face yourself with a whole bunch of tank destroyers or heavies, or the enemy have anticipated. But in this case, the Hellcat is AFK, and we're slowly farming the Hellcat. Now what we've noticed here is the KV1 has been smart. He's paid attention to the map, and he's coming flying around the corner. I baited him round a bit further for a tank destroyer. We're now reloaded, and we can come back and get a good shot. Now he does hit us back with APCR, though he definitely didn't need that for my tank. But that KV1 is now a one shot, and by the time I get around the corner, I will be fully loaded. I'll take the hit, but I'll be able to move around the corner. Now at this point, there's like 5 enemy heavy tanks and they have no idea that I'm coming around the corner. And there's another kill on the TOG 2, and you'll see this is flanking at its best. We're coming right up behind enemy tanks. The long reload is what's punishing us here, really. But with the fact that we have that good alpha damage, we are making the most of it. Look at that KV. He has no idea we're sat behind him, and we demolish him. And the enemy tanks are totally focused on ours. And maybe there's you can say there's not much attention to the mini-map from these guys. But at the same time, they are in a huge battle with our own forces. And the MX-M4 now coming back, and he's seen us, and we get another shot into him in the side. And as you can see there, we're just coming up to 4 minutes in the game, having done 2,200 damage in a tier 7 medium. That's not bad. Pretty happy with that, and that flanking plays really worked well for us. And we're pushing forward now using our mobility to get spotting. The guerrilla artillery is dead, and we continue to push up using as much of that mobility as possible to get at least some assistance damage, even though shooting on the move is unlikely for us in this tank, because as you can see, look at the giant pineapple of a reticle on the screen. But we get our track taken, and while we're waiting for track, we do get another shot there into the Comet for 314 damage. Plus, look at all that assistance damage as well, which is only adding to our score. And the IKV finishes off the Comet. And there we've done 2,500 damage and 435 assistance. But you know, with 4 kills, and those 4 kills very much that flanking maneuver. And I think that's when flanking goes well. Now, it's always worth, I think, if you see an opportunity, you should look for that flanking opportunity to come behind enemy tanks, particularly when they're engaged in battle. Sometimes it's quite easy to just go for it too early, and if the enemy aren't engaged in a big battle, then they're looking for targets, and they'll often be looking at the mini-map. They'll be looking to see if people are coming behind them. But in that case, we kind of waited long enough for them to be fully engaged in a big firefight, and at that point often people's attention is directed elsewhere. It exactly was in this case. We got lucky with the Hellcat in that he was AFK, but we did manage to finish him off, and I think with the IKV support that we had as well, he wouldn't have lasted along with the KV-1. We came around the back of those heavy tanks, defeated them in quick succession. In that game, with that flanking maneuver, lasted less than 5 minutes to its conclusion. So I think they're a really good example of when flanking does go well, and it reinforces for me the importance of try and flank when you can, but pick your moment. Let's go back to the garage. Okay, so here we are back in our garage with the Leo, and I think that was a good demonstration of when flanking can work in the game. I think you've got to also have the right tank to do it, and the more manoeuvrable your tank is, the more obviously the easier it is to make that sort of flanking play. But pick your moment. It's very easy to go early, or it's very easy to leave it too late, and by the time you get round there, you haven't maximised the damage that you can inflict, and either your own team will have taken too much damage in the firefight, or there'll be nothing there for you to get, and you're still here playing for credits and experience. So the Leo there, I wouldn't say it's the best tank, but the manoeuvrability certainly helped it in that case, and it's just the reload time doesn't help. And I think in certain cases a faster reload time would make it easier to also track and lock down opponents, so if they did turn and face you, you could actually lock their tracks down. So again, something to think about. But flanking, a very important maneuver and tactic in World of Tanks. It's just having the right tank to do it, and also picking the best time to make that play. So as always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. If you do give it a thumbs down, please let me know why and how I can improve it. I'd like to thank everyone for their support on our YouTube channel. I'd like to grow the content. If you do like the content that's on there, you do want to see more, please subscribe. It is free. We're also live streaming on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Gaming. So please feel free to check us out on those platforms and follow us there as well. So as always, you've been watching Ethereal Gaming. I hope the video was useful, and I'll see you on the battlefield.